Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Slam of Wrestling. Myself, Supreet, and this is your AEW Dynamite review for June 26, 2021. Joined by Abhishek Aneja here. So, Abhi, so this Dynamite had it, you had everything here. It was live, we had a crowd, and it had a big main event. So, what you think about Dynamite?
I thought that it was a solid show. Uh, like, I think that the shows which have taken place post Double or Nothing, I don't know. I have been comparing them to that said pay-per-view, and it is just in my mind that I am not fucking impressed, so to speak, because of Double or Nothing. Because that pay per view just fucking blew me away because of the crowd, because of the action. So whatever has happened post the pay per view has not obviously reached that mark, but the fact that yes, it is undeniable. It was a pay per view. It was a special pay per view nonetheless. But yes, this show was solid on its own.
And was it by design? Was it that AEW is kind of taking a break for a month and then when they go back to touring from July 7th, then get some compelling television.
Possibly, possibly, possibly.
And they
It
already, sorry to
yes.
interrupt, but yeah, they're already, it's looking like they're going to that next level because now I think they are going to that old dynamite format, setting up storylines and setting up matches for at least the next 2 3 weeks of dynamite.
Hmm. Yes, agreed, absolutely. And also, we had discussed regarding the FTR and LAX or Proud or Powerful storyline, that how it should come about, and the whole stuff. And what happened in this show, I was very much impressed, and I am very happy that the company is investing in the said story, the said rivalry. And I am very looking very much forward to the clash of the two teams. And probably they were, as you said, that they were probably holding it, their compelling content, their compelling storylines for the time when the crowds would be coming in, and the environment would be fucking electric, and it would be everything would be in place, so that you throw it out to the crowd, and everything would be in place. So probably you might be right. uh, you know
So,
they were
um,
doing
as
it.
we talk about the this week's episode of Dynamite, so we had Hangman Page versus Powerhouse Hobbs. So we also had a random match announced. It was Dante Martin versus Matt Seidel, and you just mentioned that there was a little face off between Conan and Tully Blanchard. Statlander, she faced the Bunny, and of course the main event. It was for the AEW World Championship, Kenny Omega versus Jungle Boy. But before that, if you are new to Slam of Wrestling, then make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Check out our other content that you will be getting in the description below. All links provided. So let's quickly jump into this week's Dynamite. So they kicked off with Hangman Page versus Powerhouse Hobbs from he's representing Team Taz here. So can you give us some backstory? How we got to this point.
uh, I guess uh, you know Team Taz has been, there have been some problems in Team Taz with regards to Brian Cage. First of all, how it came about, it was Hangman Page, facing Ricky Starks, and he won. He being, Hangman Page, and then a match, happened, which was surprising. The result was surprising. Brian Cage and Hangman Page, had a match, and Brian Cage won. So that's when, problems, started to arise between Team Taz, and, you know, everything, started to, you know, come awry, that with regards to Team Taz, that Brian Cage said that I do not need you guys and blah blah blah, that I can do shit on my own. And Hangman Page is right now, you can say he is, you know, sitting on the sidelines. He's waiting for his opportunity for the world championship. And even this match, it was between two ranked contenders, that is Powerhouse Hobbs and Hangman Page. And whoever would be winning this bout was in contention for Kenny Omega's world championship. So many things are here in this match. The Team Taz is having problems, and the stakes are up for grabs for the world championship.
So it was a decent enough match. Powerhouse Hobbs is not known for going full crazy like Brian Cage, but things did get a little interesting when here comes Ricky Starks and Taz's son Hook. So I think he was about to give some assistance to Hobbs. He brought out the FTW championship. So here comes Brian Cage. Why did you take my championship? So he was about to, he got his hands on Ricky Starks. He was about to powerbomb him on the apron, but Starks was able to escape and was still, he was crying about his injured neck. So this is a kind of intriguing thing that is going on in this storyline. But speaking about the match, so Hobbs was, I think, targeting the leg, or was it the arm? Can you correct me? Yes.
Yes, the right arm to neutralize the buckshot lariat.
So back to the match. So while this whole shenanigans was happening with Starks and Cage, so Hobbs was a little distracted. So Page had the opportunity to end the buckshot lariat, but Hobbs, being the smart guy, counters it into a spine buster, which looked great, and a really good near fall. So Page was back on the attack. He had some momentum, was trying to take out the big guy. So Page decided to end the match via his other finisher, that's called the Deadeye, not the buckshot lariat. So he got the win via the Deadeye, which was a great finish, you could say. So there you have it. Page is still on the momentum, as he's anytime now gets that world title shot. And yeah.
Yes. I would agree that yes, it was not a 5-star bout, so to speak, and it was not fucking crazy. But yes, the fact that it was a good television match, a hot start to a solid show, and the fact that it is commendable to Powerhouse Hobbs, that he received heat from the crowd, that it is not you can say very much seen in modern day professional wrestling, that he's getting booed or stuff like that. We only see cool heels. So it was very welcome to Powerhouse Hobbs getting heat from this modern day crowd. Kudos. And it is probably to the fact that the marks of Daily Place do not like big sweaty men, possibly. So that could be one of the reasons. And nonetheless, it was a very competitive bout, as you said. And so now Hangman Page is on the brink of getting the world title shot on Kenny Omega. And last week on the review, we discussed the fact that probably Hangman Page is ready and he probably would be winning the championship. Uh, you know, what do you think at this point? Is it uh, a good decision to break the title reign of Kenny Omega, or and giving it to Hangman Page as he got a great ovation from the crowd at Double or Nothing, or we should still stretch this out, that Hangman Page comes a little too close, but he doesn't get it, and he gets it uh, far in the future, probably next year, and that Kenny Omega has a world title reign to the fact or to the line of Kazuchika Okada, like a 1 year title reign, probably, and he makes the AEW World Championship legit or prestigious. It is a new World Championship, yes, and it doesn't have a lineage, so to speak. So making it legit and making it prestigious would be uh, you know on the hands of Kenny Omega when he defends it and he has it for a year. So yes, it would be difficult, obviously, that AEW doesn't have the schedule as New Japan has. But what do you think about that?
All I can say is that Hangman Page is obviously ready. They are already, trying to keep him off Omega. But when they do, put him in the title picture, they could stretch it out, not give Page the title on the first match or first title shot. You can stretch it out, Pro Wrestling 101, have at least maybe a second shot, or possibly a third shot. You could do that, but I think I will talk in depth when I get to the main event and talk about Kenny Omega. I think I promised something that I will be talking mainly about Kenny Omega and his world title reign, but all I can say is Page is obviously ready to get the world championship.
All right.
But moving forward, so we had Sammy Guevara being interviewed. He was being interviewed when he was just arriving to Daily's place. So while this was going on, he was attacked by Sean Spears, who was hiding behind the production trucks. So he swings his signature chair right in the shoulder area or the arm, you could say, on Guevara. So yeah, obviously Guevara has a big match next week against fellow, Pinnacle member MJF. So yeah, it was fine until we get to the involvement of Inner Circle. Should we get to that segment?
We can.
Yeah. So what happened was MJF was having his typical interview, was talking trash to the Inner Circle and whoever he hates. But here comes the Inner Circle, Chris Jericho and Jake Hager, and they had your typical brawl that we see kind of every week now on Dynamite. And yeah, so the Pinnacle members had a advantage on the on both Jericho and Hager, but here comes Guevara for to even up the odds. So he swings a chair at Wardlow and chases off both MJF and Spears. So Guevara actually had the chance to get on the mic and speak. So he was a little fired up as the crowd was chanting Sammy, Sammy. So he said, if MJF is best, then he is also the best, something like that. The thing is that you have your individual feuds in the Inner Circle, but why do you go back to doing this typical brawls again? Like just yeah,
keeping them on television.
Yeah,
keeping them on television.
Like it did come off a little forced. Like we didn't need to see this brawl again. Is there any big match in mind regarding Chris Jericho?
At this point, I do not think so. I do not think so. But yes, his presence on television, speaks on its own. He is a draw, and the fact that the crowd loves him, so it gets the crowd riled up, and it gets the reaction, so to speak. So his presence is there. He is backstage, so why not use him on the show. The booker can think like that.
But like I said, this segment came off little forced. You could have just left it to,
Yes.
Guevara being attacked in the parking lot area. And maybe at least if you wanted to do this segment, just do it with Guevara attacking MJF.
Yes. Agreed.
But let's see, Guevara has a big main event match. Hope it has some potential to deliver. So let's see. So, but moving on, we had Dante Martin versus Matt Sydal. This really came off as a, you could say, random match with no storyline, but it kind of had a meaning when Andrade and Vicky Guerrero showed up, because they were kind of teasing this big surprise that Andrade talked about last week. But they were in this this was not their TV time. It was the TV time was for this said match. So I think Matt Sydal and Andrade had a little face off. So you could see that a potential matchup for Andrade's debut in the coming weeks. But speaking about the match was really good, and Dante Martin really looked really great in this match. So what do you think about this match we had between Dante Martin and Matt Sydal?
Yes, as you said, this was a random match thrown in. I guess Excalibur said that they had this match on AW Dark. I guess in the previous week, and this match was thrown in only to the fact that they had to tease a future confrontation between Andrade and Matt Sydal. So probably they would be having a match, possibly on Road Rager. I probably reckon. And in his sit-down interview with JR, Andrade said that he wants the TNT Championship or the World Championship, and then Miro, told the guy that something to the lines of unwanted title shots and
Runs in the
runs in the
family.
family. Runs in the family. So probably, I'm not saying that it is, but probably plans changed after he trolled. So it could be that first match is not on the pay-per-view, it is on television, and it is against Matt Sydal. Next match could be championship or something like that, but I do not think right now it would be a good idea to push Andrade for the championship, any championship. Both the championships are the reigns of both the championships are pretty much new and stuff like that, and or they have a certain contender in the spot. So you should not mess with that. Miro should have a lengthy title reign, and Kenny Omega should be facing first of all Hangman Adam Page. Then only he can mess with Andrade if he wants to on AEW. He is having at Lucha Libre AAA. So, and with regards to this match, yes, it was very entertaining, very competitive bout, and I did not you know expect it to be very much as it came about on television. It was very entertaining, and at one point Sydal tried to ground Dante Martin with his submissions. his submission game. Right now, he has become a veteran, so to speak. So now he doesn't rely more on his aerial skills. He being Seidel, now he relies more on his ground, his ground game, at his submissions and stuff like that. And Dante, he rolled around and he did his aerial shit to get the crowd popping. And his sunset flip, which he did in the middle of the ring, that was fucking amazing. It was a literal sunset flip, and we saw the sunset too in the background. So it was great.
And the height on that sunset pin was a thing of beauty.
Absolutely.
So, like you said, it was clash of styles. Like Seidel is now more relying on the technical wrestling aspect, while Dante Martin is a up and comer. Really good at high flying style of wrestling. So it gave us a really good TV match. But at the end, it was Seidel who got the win. I don't know what you call it. Was kind of a neck breaker or a STO.
Yes, they called it, they have given it a specific name. They called it the lightning spiral.
So there you go. Seidel gets the win here. We have already talked about this potential tease that they did with Andrade. So Seidel could be a first good opponent for Mr. Andrade El Idolo. So let's see. I think this match lands on one of those big specials. I think July is full. It's going to be fully specials every week. We have Road Rager for, I think, 2 nights of Fighter Fest and Fight for the Fallen.
Yes.
Let's see. But moving on, we had a promo from Jade Cargill and Mean Mark Sterling or something like that. So Mr. Sterling is
Smart Mark. It's Smart Mark.
Did I say Mean Mark?
Yes.
Anyways, but so Mr. Sterling here is still promoting Jade Cargill. So this week they were, promoting her 2 new shirts that they have put on shop AEW.com and nothing much. Basically the same promos we see on Dynamite, and it's just a reason to have Jade Cargill on Dynamite at this point.
Yes.
And you could say they are kind of protecting Jade Cargill, like not having her, crushing, having some squash matches here and they're just having some promo segments, and that's it.
Yes. At this point, there isn't, there isn't any, advantage, so to speak, to have her every week on television and, squash opponents left and right. Promo segments are, good in their own way, so as to, keep her presence on television and, to have, you can say, a presence in the minds of the fans as well, that, you are an entity and, you are something and you are a force to be reckoned with, obviously. So it's good.
But from that, we get to a Young Bucks promo. So now they are officially the longest reigning AEW Tag Team Champions. We also had in this promo segment their young boy, Brandon Cutler. So they were bragging about the tag teams or guys that they have put down in this whole title reign they've had. Like they talk about Jon Moxley. They also took some cheap shots. Like if once they talked about Jon Moxley, they said that their kids are way cuter than his new baby, something like that. And also took shots at Pac, Pentagon, Phoenix. Like they have taken out all 3 guys and laid them, laying in the backstage area or something like that. So next next target is of course Eddie Kingston and Pentagon again. So they have a little tag team eliminator match where if Kingston and Penta win, they get a title shot in the future. So yeah, they are still continuing this storyline, with those said members. It's like they are slowly taking out each and every one of these baby faces. But my question is, will they do anything different next week? Like Young Bucks have come up top, some shenanigans, but will they take the loss next week? I feel like they're going to do something like that.
Mm, let's see. Let's say, possibly they could take a disqualification loss, but, taking a clean loss would be 50-50 booking. That is WWE 101. But I do not think that they would be taking a clean loss. Uh, let's see what, is in store. But, you know, you at one point, said that, you know, Eddie Kingston should be, put in the world title picture, and then I, said that probably they won't because of his look and stuff like that. But it is good that at this point that he, being Eddie Kingston, is, embroiled in a feud with the Elite. So that, feud for the world, championship is still, possible if they want to at a certain point of time in the future, if they want to, and if, Kenny Omega has still the championship, so they can do that. So, it is, smart programming at this point, that still they are, trying to, as you said, take out the members of the Death Triangle, and, the fact that Eddie Kingston has still, bad blood with, the Young Bucks, for the fact that they took out John Moxley at Double or Nothing, and, Pentagon has his own, you know uh, problems with them, due to the fact that they took out his brother Ray Phoenix backstage, and Pac now also. So there is, shit. And of course, who doesn't want the tag team championship?
But speaking about Eddie Kingston, so he was in a little hot water, of course, on Twitter. So I think they did a exclusive, just to social media exclusive type of segment when Dynamite went off the air, involving Kingston, Pentagon, and the rest of the baby faces that were involved. So he was, just in typical fashion, just putting over AEW, but he did mention that so and so they do better job than so and so, where the so and so place does not treat their legends well, does the whole deal, right? So this got him in hot water, and now everybody's shitting on Eddie Kingston. So by the way, these are the same people uh, who love the CM Punk pipe bomb promo from 10 years ago, but are offended when these companies, take shots at each other. But jokes aside, so what you think about this whole situation?
uh, if they are, as you said, they are shitting on, Eddie Kingston for the fact that he, said something, or he feels something, it is his opinion, obviously. So, it is, his opinion, obviously, and he is allowed to express it. And the fact that, he was trying to, that segment, happened post the show, and it is obviously, the for the baby faces to send the crowd home happy, obviously. And, it is his, opinion. And, for uh, some, point, or you can say at some level, probably whatever he said is right. So that also pinches a lot of people, obviously. And the fact that, it is also cool to hate on certain people, or certain promotion, or certain, shit, obviously that also gets you, the reaction, or it gets you, certain something, that unnecessary hatred, or you get a certain high. So that also, I do not get it, obviously, that why are you hating on certain person, that he cut a promo or something like that, or even he expressed his opinion, or he said something about the fact that the other company does something, or something to the sort. I do not get it, that why are you hating on that? It is your own, you know yes, it is your own, it is your own, it is your own mindset as to why you are hating on somebody for the said fact. But whatever he said, probably it is true at some level, but nonetheless,
But
the less
yeah, I want to ask again. So
talked
what?
about, it is better.
Yeah, so I want to ask again. So what you think about taking this companies taking shots, especially AEW? They do small shots, but it has got to the
Hmm.
point that it's like they are not quitting. It's like they are put. You get my point. Like they're continuously doing
Hmm.
this shit, and the fan base are really getting quote unquote tired.
Uh, there are. I want to talk 2 points with regards to this. Number one is that it is probably said that you. I guess I heard that probably in WWE versus WCW documentary, the series The Monday Night was, probably that you should not acknowledge your competition and stuff like that, but or the company which is below you. But that too, Triple H has done it in his news bits, and his, even in the Hall of Fame and stuff like that. And AW probably is doing it because that is one of the reasons how this whole thing, the movement started, BTE skits. We know that they took shots at WWE, and you can punch up, stand up comedy has this rule that you can punch up. You are the smaller promotion, so you can take shots at the you know, the monopoly or the bigger promotion and stuff like that, to get traction. Or probably you see something that is not they did bad or something like that, you can take shots. And that also creates, you can say, entertainment, or creates a buzz, and it also creates excitement among the fans, that they took a shot at certain the other promotion. And that shit also happened during the WCW and WWE era, when DX did their tank shit. They took their tank and they did their shit. That also very much entertained the audience as well. And the second point, which I would talk about with regards to this, is that you know division of people that creates you know you can say a buzz, or you can say of an entertainment for the fans. And also it you know gives power to the people at the helm, that they sometimes do this division of people voluntarily, that they do this shit, taking shots at one another and dividing the people among WWE stands and AEW stands voluntarily, deliberately, so that this creates a division, and the fans fight among themselves, and the promotions, you know they people are talking about them at every point of time, and they are in the news, and people are talking about them, and they're fighting amongst themselves. They are not at on the same page. You never see them at any point that I love professional wrestling, or we should support both the companies and stuff like that. Companies want this division of the people, that there are WWE stands, there are AEW stands, and they fight amongst themselves. And that also happens in politics too, that also happens in real life too, because that gives the power to the officials of the both companies, so that they are able to control the people. That I say something and I tweet out something, and my people or my audience would go out. The digital warriors would go out on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever the fuck, and they would spread my propaganda, so to speak. That and they would say whatever I am spreading, or whatever content I am giving to the fans, and they would take my word as gospel, and they would like my content. And we see it many a times, that whatever the content they are giving out, fans take it as as amazing. Even when they are giving probably a shit match, they take it as, and they defend it. AEW fans or WWE fans defend it like it is their company. It is not your company, man. You are just a consumer. You are not Vince McMahon or Tony Khan. No, they it is you are being quote unquote used. So that also helps the people at the helm, that this division exists at various sections of the society. So that helps the people at the helm. So that exists. They would never want you to be on the same page. They would never. I am very sorry that I took this long to say this, but it exists and they want it.
But let's quickly get back to Dynamite, man. So
Yes.
we had probably one of the best things that happened this week. So it was a face-off between Tully Blanchard and Conan. So obviously they are representing FTR and Proud and Powerful. So Shivani was there to, he was the, you could say, moderator for this whole segment. So Conan actually comes out to the LAX theme, which I popped for. So, so as I was saying, really, you could say a good promo battle from the two legends here. So there was one line where Conan said that Tully Blanchard has to learn Spanish for his grandkids. I wonder why he said that.
Possibly it is less said the better.
But yeah, but they're really having an intriguing, a fiery promo battle between, you could say, war of words. So there was a point that Blanchard actually, was threatening that Conan should keep it low, as he could just call out FTR and he could act, and they could beat him up. So Conan being said that he knew something like this was going to happen, so he kind of came prepared. So Proud and Powerful's music hit. So they come out, wearing, they were all in hoodies and masks, typical PNP style outfit, you could say. But Tully Blanchard said that it was actually a ruse, as he told Conan to look at the screen. So we see Proud and Powerful there. So they were laid out somewhere in the backstage. So Conan slowly looks towards these hooded guys. So it's actually FTR in disguise. So they attack Conan and they hit him with that spike pile driver, left Conan laying in the ring. Typical, pro wrestling 101 here, as FTR getting that natural heat from the crowd and doing that gangster sign that they, the New Yorkers typically do. So segment was really great. So what you think about this thing that happened on Dynamite?
Yes, I also thought that it was a brilliant segment, and getting us obviously invested in the feud that is between the two groups, LAX, Proud and Powerful, and FTR. Yes, we were expecting and we were wanting this feud to come about, and be given the importance, so to speak, that they both are brilliant tag teams, and the fact that they should be given such a platform that they could perform, and also the fans are invested in them as well. So brilliant stuff with regards to whatever happened, and to all the people who were involved in this segment. Yes, you know uh, I should say that when these people, Conan and Tully Blanchard were having this war of words, so to speak, as you said, it felt a little rushed. I can understand, you have 2 hours, and there is a time limit to it, but it felt a little rushed. I am used to, and probably you too are used to the promos which have taken place in the past in WWE television. So there is a sense of ease, and you are getting the fans involved, and you are getting the fans in on the shed that you are saying, and it felt a little rushed. It has happened in the past too. It felt a little rushed, just like the introduction of Andrade El Idolo. What happened with Vicky Guerrero felt a little rushed. Probably they are not used to how AW works, or maybe the booker or the officials push them that remain in the time constraint, so that is in your mind, that you have to make sure that there is time constraint and stuff like that. So probably that hinders that flow, how you are talking, because if there is an ease to it, then fans get into it as well. But whatever happened after the a slight the initial part, it was perfect. It was perfect, whatever happened. And brilliant stuff. Last week's video package and this week's this, whatever happened, kudos.
I told you, man, in this whole inner circle pinnacle thing, this is the money feud right now. Proud and Powerful and FTR, and at this point, they are really doing a great job. And by the way,
Yes.
when is this match actually happening? Have they announced it yet?
No. And I guess that it would be on the pay-per-view. There is no, I guess that there is no question that they would be having this on television. I do not think so.
No, I think they could do it on television because you got 4 back-to-back specials. So I think they could do it there, because I think it kind of will get overshadowed if they put it in a pay-per-view slot.
But let's see. Let's see.
But
They it would, but the magnitude of this feud, and the fact that how accomplished these two tag teams are, you know, Impact Wrestling, WWE, and how talented these two are, booking them on television, I don't know. it's up to the official. Let's see. Let's see.
But moving on, but before we move on, you just mentioned, this set segment between Tully Blanchard and Conan being kind of rushed, due to lack of TV time, etc., etc. I hope, this problem of, rushing things, it gets solved when, they start Rampage. There will be a shift of balance, we can watch these matches and especially the segments very easily. It will get that time and everything will come out perfect.
I hope so too.
But like I said, so next we had Miro cutting a promo. So he was hyping up his potential matchup with Brian Pillman Jr. I think it's next week for the TNT Championship.
I guess so too. Yes.
So yeah, he was talking about the match. So this is becoming a thing about Miro and his promos. So where he first off is seen, thanking Lord Jesus, the Almighty up there, and then he quickly transitions into complimenting how hot his wife is, which is hilarious. So he does the same thing here and talks about the match with Brian Pillman Jr. And yeah, man, Miro is really coming up great with his promos.
Yes. Uh, he always kills it on the microphone, and it is a shame that he wasn't given this on WWE, I guess. So hard luck to WWE, and now he's coming out on his own, and it's great. Whenever he gets on the mic and he maximizes his minutes. Another wife pun. I'm very sorry.
And like I said last week, I think this is kind of a Brian Pillman Jr. interview. Uh, like there is hype with the Dark Side of the Ring documentary, and most of the fans are being a little sympathetic to him, and is kind of getting over along with the tag team. So let's see if this whole experiment works or not. But
Yes. And
moving,
they also probably said at one point that they are ranked number one in the tag team division.
let's see, let's talk about Doctor Britt Baker, DMD. So she was in a interview segment with Tony Schiavone. So she was talking about her match, that is a tag team match. I think it is also happening next week. So we got Britt Baker and Reba. So they will be facing Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose. And she also we were also announced that the championship match is it's official now between Baker and Nyla Rose. It's going to be happening. I think they said it's going to be happening on the night 2 edition of Fighter Fest. So there's your announcement. But by the way, I still don't know why Vicky Guerrero is involved in this match. Why she will be wrestling? I don't know. I think it just to further this main story with this
Yes.
title match.
Yes. And there was a little a problem, or you can say why. There is a question in my mind that with regards to Nyla Rose's promo, that Vicky Guerrero was talking. Yes, absolutely. But Nyla Rose, when she was given the minutes to talk, she put over Vicky Guerrero. Vicky Guerrero is a legend on his own, on her own. So there was no need for her to put her over. She should concentrate on herself. People don't know you. They know Vicky Guerrero. They don't know you. Vicky Guerrero, yes, she can do her shit. She can get you heat. But, you are dressed like you are going to a club or a pub. not a wrestler. All right, you look at Britt Baker. She was dressed that if she's asked right now that go for a match, she can go right now. But you looked at Nyla Rose, she was dressed for a party or something like that, or you know whatever. But she putting over Vicky Guerrero, it looked odd, and it wasn't needed at that point. People want to be invested in Nyla Rose. People want to be invested in her because she is the next challenger to Britt Baker. So or Vicky Guerrero got you heat, but you should portray yourself as a worthy challenger, or something like that, that you are a threat to her and blah blah blah. But if you are not doing that in your promos, so what the fuck is happening? It doesn't make sense. You are not even looking threatening in your promos. You are dressed like you are going to a party or something like that. What the fuck is happening?
And by the way, the dynamic now is that Britt Baker is a baby face and Vicky Guerrero and Nyla Rose are the heels.
I don't know. Is she, or are they both heels competing against one another? Just whatever.
I think heel Britt Baker is more intriguing right now, but I don't know. I hope it's a temporary thing that Baker is a baby face, because she could be a great heel, because there are certain baby face she could have a solid feud against.
Yes, and next in line possibly is Chris Statlander.
Let's see. But before we get to Chris Statlander, let's talk about all ego Ethan Page. So he was facing Bear Bronson of Bear Country. So this also felt like it was actually it was a random match on Dynamite, but they still followed up with some the ongoing storyline. But speaking about the match was fine. So there was one big spot where we had Bronson going for a tope on Ethan Page, but Scorpio Sky, took the bullet for Mr. Page here, and they had little shenanigans, where referee was distracted, and Sky, assisted Page to take out Mr. Bear Bronson here. So as we get to the end, so I think Bronson was on the advantage, was about to get the big win, I suppose, but shenanigans again. Scorpio Sky gets involved. So Bear Bronson's tag team partner then had to had to get rid of Scorpio Sky. So there was a distraction. So Ethan Page took the opportunity to hit a low blow to Bear Bronson. So he was actually set up on the second rope. So this was a great chance for Page to hit the ego's edge, and it really was able to pull it off, because Bronson is a big guy. So Page hit it like nothing, and that was a great sight to see. So Page got the victory here, and that was it. So before we get to the post match stuff, so any thoughts on this match?
Yes, as you said, it was a fine match, just put together to the fact that Ethan Page has a presence, or you could say the Men of the Year have a presence on television, and they get a victory, so to speak, after what they did to Darby Allin, and in the handicap match, that they beat the fuck out of Darby Allin, and and they were able to, because Sting was at home after Darby Allin asked him to, and Darby was, you can say, lured in the match, or to the mugging, so to speak. Being said that he was able to hold on to the TNT championship for that long because of Sting. That Sting was in his corner, every time. So Sting was the reason that he in his himself is not, you know, main event material, and he's not, the guy, so to speak. So they were able to get him, and that was basically what, this whole, how this match has uh, did come about, so to speak. Yes, it was a fine match, competitive, but you know, as expected, Ethan Page got the victory.
So post match, so Ethan Page was on the mic, was getting real heat from the crowd. And by the way, like I said before, Ethan Page is the breakout star in this whole tag team with Scorpio Sky. So he's getting a great heat from the crowd. So he was talking about Darby Allin and said that pinning Darby Allin was not enough, and he really wants to, put the nail in the coffin. He was saying nail in the coffin, nail in the coffin, and said that he challenges Darby Allin at Road Rager, I believe, in a coffin match. So yeah, so I think I kind of mentioned it last week that they are trying to put in, mention us about the history between Ethan Page and Darby Allin, and now they are taking it to the next step and giving us that big singles match, and now they have added a special element of this coffin match, which gives you that old school vibe and makes this whole thing kind of interesting. So really looking forward to it.
Yes, same here. I'm looking forward to it as well. This July 7th show, this Road Rager show, has now a strap match, has now a coffin match. It would be a fucking electric show. First show on the road with the fans. Looking forward to it, man. It would be fucking amazing.
I already said that they got setting up matches for at least the next 3 weeks of Dynamite. So I love that they are going back to that old Dynamite, AEW Dynamite format.
Yes.
But moving on, speaking about Road Rager, so this next guy has a big match with Cody Rhodes in a strap match. So I'm talking about QT Marshall. Nothing much here. He's just hyping up the said match, and he wishes that Cody Rhodes went to Hollywood and bagged a stupid superhero film, something like that, and that's probably it.
Um,
Basically saying that Cody Rhodes should be off television.
let's see. Probably that happens after the staff match. It would help. I guess Cody Rhodes quite a bit if that happens. His character has gone stale. Obviously, it would help, and this superhero and stuff like that. Being drawn in. I do not know, this Charlie Harper QT or whatever. I don't know if he is uh, pointing towards someone from the past. I do not know.
Yeah,
Let's see.
wait. Are we getting yet another celebrity match with Cody?
I do not know if it would be a match, but he could be involved in some shape or form.
I don't know, man. But it will be really
possibly
interesting.
not.
Let's see. But as I was saying, it would be really interesting to see how the live crowd will be reacting to Cody Rhodes now. Of course, he was a natural baby face, before the pandemic hit. But now I
Yes.
want to see if, does he get that same reaction, or will see the crowd slowly turning on him.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Whichever role, it turns to, he would embrace it, obviously, and he would be able to, get on that, easily. Right now, if you go by the members of the elite, it's only, I guess, Cody Rhodes who is not the heel at this point, if I'm not wrong.
No, yeah, that is the storyline, that the heels are the factory and QT Marshall. But I was talking
Hmm.
about the crowd aspect, is what is going on with
Yes,
Cody
no,
Rhodes.
no. I am saying that
Yeah,
all the members of the elite have turned heel or they are heel, but only Cody Rhodes is the one who is a babyface at this point, who has
Mm,
not turned heel.
yeah, but yeah, that
So
that thing, he
probably.
kind, yeah, when this whole pandemic started, he automatically, got out that elite section, and he said that Nightmare Family is a thing, and that's his faction. Elite is the different entity.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Hmm.
but
Let's see.
let's talk about Chris Statlander versus the Bunny. So Statlander was accompanied by Orange Cassidy, while the Bunny was accompanied by the Blade. And by the way, they mentioned on commentary that Trent is out with a spinal stenosis. I think he got surgery on that, which is some serious stuff. So I don't know what's the timeline of his return, but I think he's going to be off television for a while now.
Hmm. Yes.
But speaking about this match, the match was just there. Of course, Statlander is someone that they are trying to build up, giving her some wins. And Bunny is really, being featured a lot in these matches. I think she was in a match against Red Velvet last week, and now she's facing Chris Statlander. So, like I said, this match was just there. So Statlander, got the victory. She hit the Big Bang Theory, her finisher, which is a cradle like tombstone. And they were saying that Bunny actually got spiked on her head and was kind of, out and was being treated by medicals. So I don't know what's the status on Bunny right now, but that thing happened.
Pro- Probably, Dustin Rhodes tweeted out that nothing of the sort happened and both the competitors are fine. So I don't know what is the status with regards to what happened.
Basically, nothing major
If
happened.
we, so it's cool. It's cool.
So Statlander got the victory here. So there was a post-match angle here that they set up where we would see the Blade attacking Orange Cassidy here. So here comes TH2. So they, accompanied Blade and they were attacking Orange Cassidy. So Orange Cassidy's crew is not here, talking about Chuck and Trent. So a 3-on-1 beatdown on Mr. Orange Cassidy. So Blade takes out the, brace knucks that was actually the Bunny was trying to use in the match with Statlander, but she failed, and Cassidy kind of, took the possession of this said brace knucks. So Blade takes this knuckles and just takes a shot at Orange Cassidy, left him laying. So yeah, like I said, I think they are potentially trying to set up a match or a, you could say, story, you could say, but that was it.
Yes. Uh, I want to say that first of all, with regards to the match, I would like to say that the commentators said that Chris Statlander has been undefeated since her return. So, she could be, as I said uh, previously in uh, this review, that she could be one of the future contenders for Britt Baker's Women's World Championship. She's also a babyface, so it would be obviously that she could be one of the contenders. And right now, uh, as we just discussed, that Nyla Rose is the next contender in line. So Statlander could be, after that, she would be next in line. And this match, in my opinion, was competitive, surprisingly. With regards to these two ladies, I did not expect that it would be a competitive bout, between the two. And nonetheless, the Cassidy was also involved in the action, as you just said, with regards to foiling the brass duster, thing. So Statlander got the victory. And with regards to the post match, shit, I was very happy, with what happened, post match, because good stuff. Because finally we now can give a fuck that what happening, what is happening with Orange Cassidy. We also talked about that in the previous review, that what is happening with regards to Orange Cassidy. We are not invested in him right now. He is just being thrown on television, that only for the sake of having presence on television, that he's a draw, so that fans are coming in on television to watch, and they get the ratings and blah blah blah. So now, after this beat down, that the heels getting one up, this, whatever this happened, I have not seen that on AW television for probably ever, or probably in the past many months. So I am very happy that he is getting one up with regards to what happened with Orange Cassidy, and the babyface is getting sympathy. Fans would get invested more in Orange Cassidy and this story, and the people who were involved in here, and also in Chris Statlander too. So you are, benefiting all these people. So good stuff overall.
And did they mention that TH2 are now official members of the Hardy HFO faction of Matt Hardy?
Yes, someone said yes.
Let's see where this goes, but I think we should quickly get into the good stuff. That is the main event, the AW World Championship match between Kenny Omega versus Jungle Boy. And actually, they had a kind of promo package, uh, and mainly, about the, you could say, the Saturday Night Dynamite. They mentioned that the last time they were on a Saturday, so there was a big title change with Mr. Brody Lee taking the TNT title from Cody Rhodes. So they kind of said that something similar to this could happen here as well. And by the way, they also kind of tried to do a promo segment with Jungle Boy about this match, and they had the involvement of Christian Cage in there, who was actually giving a pep talk, veteran like pep talk to Jungle Boy, and that's basically it. But about this match was, I could say, it was a great TV match. I repeat, a great TV match. And what do you think about this whole encounter we had with Omega and Jungle Boy?
I thought that it was a competitive and entertaining, very entertaining bout. And as you said, that it was a great TV match. We could not expect, pay-per-view level shit, on television. Sometimes we can, but with regards to this, you know, uh, you know, the whole video package, Christian Cage pep talk, and Jungle Boy's family, being at ringside, and you know, the people, the faction people were, thrown out at the start of the bout. So the atmosphere was given a big match feel. So kudos to the guys. And at many points of time, it felt like probably Jungle Boy can win or is winning the championship. So kudos to the guys, obviously, who are involved in this, obviously the stakeholders. And it was also said at one point that Kenny Omega has been undefeated for 22 months at this point. And for the backstory, yes, Jungle Boy won this opportunity at the Double or Nothing in the Casino Battle Royale. And, other than that, you know, Kenny Omega won, at the end via pinfall. And, his one winged angel, it had quite a snap. Jungle Boy, twisted like this. It felt like, fucking, I don't know.
I
And
I actually had to rewind to see if Jungle Boy had landed on his head or neck when he hit that one wing angel.
yes, it was safe, if you saw at the end, obviously. But the way, Kenny Omega does, yes, obviously now he has perfected the move. Obviously, it should look dangerous so that, you are not put away from the illusion, or you can say, or the investment in the story, that the move doesn't hurt, so to speak. It hurts, you are invested in that story. So even the move, when it was fucking executed, so the count happened, obviously. It was very the both the competitors look very exhausted, and it was a very competitive bout. So the camera also had the family of Jungle Boy in the background, so they also looked fucking shocked. And they were also at probably shocked, and probably concerned that you know is he hurt or is he not. So that makes it, that makes everything, so kudos.
And by the way, this match was actually designed to put over Jungle Boy and get him to that next main event like level.
Yes, and I guess they accomplished it. Jungle Boy looked amazing in this match, so possibly we have to see that in the weeks to come, that was it mission accomplished or not. So it was a great match nonetheless, a great TV match, as you said.
But let's talk some highlights here. So, like you said, there was an atmosphere for this match. Crowd is fully behind Jungle Boy. Doing the whole singing bit, and there were actually dueling chants of both Jungle Boy and Kenny Omega, which was kind of missed in this whole pandemic era. But crowd still turned on Omega, because Jungle Boy is the most beloved guy in that whole Daily's Place arena. So there were you could say a lot of weed triggers. Of course, it's an Omega match, you know and there were actually a lot of near falls to make Jungle Boy look strong. But there one near fall where Jungle Boy went for a roll up, and this was, I've thought that this was it. Jungle Boy got the win here because it was this close, which was well done. And I think Jungle Boy quickly transitioned into his submission, that is the snare trap. And we could see, Omega doing his best to get out of that hold. And the one thing I forgot is, before the match even went away, started, both their, stablemates or teammates, you could say, Marco Stunt and Luchasaurus were kicked out. And also Good Brothers were also kicked out of this match. So it was official one-on-one contest. So as I was saying, Omega was able to get out of that submission. It was pulling the hair, gouging the eyes. But the Good Brothers did try to get involved, while Jungle Boy was close to getting the victory here. and we had the Jurassic Express, chasing them off. And we also had the Elite Hunter, Kazarian, out of nowhere, jumps on the apron and attacks these guys. I'm really kind of digging this Kazarian, element. He wants to make the super elite's life a living hell. So there's that. So back to the match, we see a lot of back and forth. Omega with several V triggers. Jungle Boy trying his best to fight off, the accomplished veteran, you could say, in Omega. So Omega actually hits you could say Tiger Driver and gets a near fall. So he was finally able to set up the one winged angel, and there was no way Jungle Boy was kicking out of that. Omega wins, retains the championship, and there you go. And by the way, Don Callis was, on commentary, and I love how casually buries the whole commentary team.
Same here.
So yeah, Omega retained. There was a celebration, but before that celebration, Omega wanted to attack Jungle Boy with the belt. But here comes his Jurassic Express mate. Can you describe what happened? I think I kind of messing up this segment.
Uh, I guess that it wasn't the stablemates. I guess it was Christian Cage.
Yes.
It was Christian Cage who came for the save, and then I guess the Hardy family office came, and it was fucking chaos. They were fighting one another, and at the end, uh, the Young Bucks came, and they, super kicked Christian Cage, and at the end they were all, posing with the belts. That is the Hardy family office, Matt Hardy, and the Elite, that is Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. They all posed, and that's how the show ended.
So I think it's official that Christian Cage will be getting into the title scene. But the thing is that he either has to get rid of Matt Hardy first, or maybe
Mm.
they first give him the title shot and then he could continue on with Matt Hardy. I don't know, but it's official that Christian Cage is getting that title shot before Hangman, to be precise.
Let's see. This is the beauty of this AW programming, that right now, this whatever happened, at the end of the show, now it puts everything in, in front of us, and now we are thinking of that what happens next. Now, is it Hangman Page who is going to be getting a shot, or is it Christian Cage, or Christian Cage and Matt Hardy are going to fight, first? What is happening first? So that, makes it for us, that now what happens next. So that is why, tune in, you know, to AW
And
Dynamite.
so is it just me, or is you also getting the vibe that they could be potentially turning Christian Cage heel?
Mm, at this point, I don't think so right now, but in the near future, possibly yes. Right now, he is, as you just said, we discussed it, that he is, right now, about to face Christian, beg your pardon, Matt Hardy, and possibly Kenny Omega too. So probably now would be not a good time to turn him heel, but after one of these matches or both these matches are done with, why not? Why not? Probably.
Let's say, because a heel Christian Cage would be somewhat of a interesting character way, because his kind of style is kind of is just there as a good wrestler and all, but doing that heel work would be a, could say, step up.
Yes. Yes, and then he can feud with the likes of Jungle Boy.
And yeah, man, that's about Christian Cage. But let's quickly get into the thing that I've been speaking about. Let's talk about Kenny Omega and his world title reign. So the
Yes.
thing is, there are many reports. Not, it's not actually reports. Kenny Omega has stated that he's banged up. He's facing some injuries here and there, and I think even Meltzer pointed it out. So I don't know. Technically, he should taking time off, but he's right now in a lot of pressure, because he's holding not one, not two, but three championships of different promotion, that two world championships, and the main focus is is the AW world champion, and he should be he should be the guy in this entire industry. But uh, there could be a scenario where the matchmakers say that it's time that let's move on to the next you could say champion. I'm talking about AEW, and I won't be surprised if when Hangman Page does get that first title shot, then it's a one and done deal. So thoughts on this whole situation?
Mm, possibly, if he is, I also read some tweets, some reports with regards to him being injured, being pressured, on pressure, being exhausted. Absolutely. Right now the championship, which he would probably be losing, is the AAA Mega Championship to Andrade El Idolo. He is, in my sense of uh, opinion, because the fact is that yes, Andrade is a bona fide superstar, and if they are facing one another, and he is being portrayed as the face of the Latinos, so probably he is losing the championship. That could be happening at Triple Mania. But with regards to Impact Wrestling World Championship and AW World Championship, I do not know at this point that is there a worthy contender, is there a worthy person, or is it a good you know decision to getting it off on from Kenny Omega. Yes, as you're saying, Hangman Page could be getting it on the first shot. uh, you know Possibly, yes. Hangman Page was also in contender for the world championship on the first try, when Chris Jericho won it. So he could possibly be now getting the championship. But you know, it would be a good scenario if Kenny Omega was not injured and he would be getting a lengthy title reign, and Super Elite was running roughshod all over the world in various promotions, and uh, getting themselves over with the crowd and getting the heat, so to speak. So right now, Sami Callihan is next in line at Slammiversary for getting the championship title from Kenny Omega. I do not think so he would be getting the championship, but if there is a surprise in store at Slammiversary, someone through the lines of any superstar or something like that, then probably there is a chance that Kenny Omega could be losing. Possibly, but then Bryan Danielson, right now also WWE is throwing his name around many a time, so probably he would be coming back to WWE. Possibly, we do not know at this point what his you know contract status really is. People can say that he has not come to terms and stuff like that, but we do not know at this point that what is in line. So, and with regards to AW Championship, you just said Hangman Page could be getting the championship. So, with regards to Impact Wrestling, yes, who can they give that championship to? Right now, there is nothing in store. So let's see how this comes about. uh, Kenny Omega, yes, he is competing in matches sporadically. Obviously he's the world champion and he would not be competing every other week, so yes, his body would be on rest.
That's a
So
good thing.
probably
That's one good thing that both promotion are doing.
yes, and it is also in it is good for the investment of the crowd too, that your champion is not competing every other week. That saturates his stock, and obviously you know your world champion should not be competing every other week. He can have promos and stuff like that, be having his presence felt here and there, not be competing every other week. But you know he is resting, obviously. So probably that could be also one of the reasons that why they had Kenny Omega versus Moose at uh,
Against all odds.
yes, at Daly's place, because probably he is banged up and stuff like that, so they didn't got him to fly to Nashville, that he was stayed at Florida, that yes, he's banged up, so they didn't want him to travel all the way to Nashville. So they are taking care of him, obviously, because he is their world champion, all the promotions. So they are making sure that he is the world champion, he should be resting, and he is having the belt, and he is a draw for the fans involved, and stuff like that. So let's see what are the plans for the future. We should wait and enjoy the ride, obviously.
Yeah, but if there is if it does happen that he quickly loses this championship, especially the AEW one, it's going to be kind of underwhelming because
Yes.
I've seen people saying that finally that Omega is hitting his stride as AEW World Champion, but now if he loses in a couple of months or the next big challenge, then it's going to be kind of underwhelming because it has to be a defining reign for Kenny Omega as this best wrestler in the world, which at this point it is, I would say, he's not even in the top two. He's kind of shy away from that number three spot. We all know, we are not going to mention names. We all know who's the number one guy in this industry is, but yeah, man, it is going to be kind of underwhelming if something like that happens.
Yes, and like I said, also, he should have a defining title reign. Like with the likes of Okada and blah blah blah. A lengthy title reign, making it, the title prestigious, and as you said, making himself also legit, and saying to the world that you are sitting on the throne, being the best wrestler in the world, and being the best of AEW. So that the companies, the promotions are also making sure that it stays that way, and he gets rest, and he can do justice to their championship reign, and do justice to their investment. And whenever he loses the championship, it has the said investment, and it makes sense that it doesn't be a throwaway, that it doesn't go well with the it doesn't go just like that with the audience. It should make sense, it should have the investment, it should have everything whenever he loses the championship, so that it also goes well with Kenny Omega, that he loses a championship to a worthy guy, you know so he also would be wanting that. So let's hope for the best.
We should. But that was Dynamite, man. And before we leave, where can these guys find you?
Guys, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Abimaniac, and you can support me on my YouTube channel at Abimaniac as well.
You can find Slam Up Wrestling on Twitter at SlamHubW, Instagram at Slam Up Wrestling, and you can catch this review on audio platforms as well, like Anchor and Spotify. So this was the AEW Dynamite review, and I'll see you guys next time.